Shalom, everyone. In studying this week's Parsha, I was really excited to be able to use this copy of The Light of the Eyes, which is the rabbinic commentary by Rabbi Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, a Hasidic master from Ukraine. And that was a gift given to me by Rabbi Kamras and Rabbi Vogel on behalf of HAMAKOM prior to my ordination a few weeks ago. And I'm excited to share some of the things that I learned in studying out of that book. In the Meor Naim's commentary on this week's Parashat Bechukotai, he finds an opportunity to talk about faith, which is something that I find sometimes we talk about, sometimes we don't in the Jewish community. People often have a strong reaction when the word faith comes up. What the Meor Naim does is he starts with the beginning of the Parsha and he looks at the first phrase of the first verse, which reads, "If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments." And he asks the question, what's the difference between the laws or the hukim and the commandments and the mitzvot? The Meor Naim says that hukim are rules that don't have an explicit reason behind them, and mitzvot, the commandments, are the laws that have an explicit reason. And when it comes to these hukim, which is where we get the name of the Parsha Bechukotai, there's no reason to do them other than quote unquote quote the faith that the Creator said so. And he goes on to say that faith is referred to as the legs on which all of the Torah stands. This seems counterintuitive or different for us because we're not used to thinking this way. We live in a culture in which knowledge and rationality and the intellect are revered as the highest level of human understanding. Yet, the Meoranim pushes back against our modern dispositions, and he teaches that if we function based solely on the intellect, we're missing the other half of what it means to be human. And to make his point, he cites a Gemara which teaches that the prophet Habakkuk reduced all of Torah to one verse, Habakkuk 2:4. The faith of the righteous sustains their lives. Habakkuk bases all Torah on faith. Now, what's funny about this is if you read the book of Habakkuk, all of it is about Habakkuk's struggle with faith. The entire book plays on this theme of wrestling with faith and doubt. And that book in Prophets shows this arc from doubt to faith and trust and belief. And yet, the Gemara and the Meoranim cite this idea that faith is the foundation for all of Torah, which then leads us to the question of if faith is the foundation for all of Torah, is faith enough? Because one of the funny things about this teaching from the Meor Einayim is there aren't that many Hasidic texts that talk solely about faith. This probably has to do with the fact that the followers of the failed Messiah Shabtai Tzvi emphasized faith over performance of mitzvot and deeds, and it could be a historical corrective. And throughout Hasidic thought, we see this idea that faith has to be balanced with following mitzvot. And so we're left with this idea that faith is incredibly important and it's the legs of Torah, but you use legs to walk. And so faith is the thing that allows us to perform mitzvot, to act in a way that makes the world a better place. And it's something that's difficult to define, and yet in doing some more research, there's a quote from President Jimmy Carter actually that I think summarizes the faith that our tradition and that the Meor and I are talking about. This quote's attributed to President Carter, and he said, "I've one life and one chance to make it count for something. I'm free to choose what that something is, and the something I've chosen is my faith. Now, my faith goes beyond theology and religion and requires considerable work and effort. My faith demands This is not optional. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have, to try to make a difference. I think that's the faith that we're talking about here. This idea that we have a faith which allows us to act in the world, to make a difference, to make the world kinder, to balance out our intellect, to recognize that wisdom goes beyond just being really, really smart. It's about being kind, and it's about how do we actually take what we're doing to make this place kinder. I leave you with this question of how do you understand faith? How do you understand your faith? And how can faith be the legs that your Torah not just stands on, but walks on and walks through the world with? Shabbat Shalom.